and welcome to Beat 'em Up Wrestling. This is Dark Side of the Ring, the last of the Von Erichs.
Man, this episode, it's like a snowball.
Yeah.
It's like kept getting worse.
But watch it. It has a happy ending.
It does. It just,
yeah, it starts off really rough.
it's hard to swallow this whole episode because you're basically seeing the downfall of a whole family. And I don't really remember too much of Von Erichs a little bit. I remember the name.
I remember the Texas Tornado.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, I remember when they showed that part with Flair and everything like that. Yeah, I remember that. I don't remember too much of the Von Erichs. I remember the name, like I said. But I really...
a lot of the old school wrestling people always bring up the Von Erichs.
But we'll get into the beginning. If you like.
It starts with Fritz Von Erich, the master of the Iron Claw. He played the evil German. That was his whole gimmick. Very Nazi orientated at times.
Yeah.
He was a heel, and it talks about how the Von Erich boys, his children, were not too happy with how he played a heel because he hated when people used to jeer him and
when they booed, they would like uncover their eyes and be like, "Yes, Dad's getting hits in," which is kind of funny. So they were those kids
because they thought in their eyes their dad was a good guy. They knew their dad outside of the ring. But, which reminds me, quick segue. We are going to be reviewing My Dad's a Heel Wrestler.
Yeah, we were going to. That's going to be. I'm looking forward to that.
But back to this. It's pretty much a family that grew up around wrestling. I mean, they were the WCCW was their promotion that they ran for a while, which was World Class Championship Wrestling.
Yeah, they were basically, man, they became like Texas Heart and Soul.
Yeah.
Like people, they like when they were showing pictures of the girls and them, it was like literally like a boy band.
It was like the Beatles.
Yeah, it was like Backstreet Boys looking type of, oh my God, it's the Von Erichs, you know. And pretty much the physique was all the same with the kids. Some more bigger than some of them, but it started off with tragedy. One of the youngest boys, Jack, he basically electrocuted himself with a wire and ended up falling into a puddle and then drowning himself. So that was the first loss the family had suffered. But he was unfortunately at a very young age. But it wasn't until later in life, when the boys are older.
He was 6 years of age when he passed away.
You know, that it just became this cloud, and
a lot of it is they wanted to make their family proud. They wanted to carry the legacy of the Von Erichs, and so we go to the first son, which was David Von Erich, or the Yellow Rose of Texas. He was a superstar. He had the physique. He had.
The first one was Kevin.
No, but I'm saying.
Kevin was the oldest. After that, he was born in '57.
No, but I'm saying.
The first one to kind of make it big. Yeah, that guy was huge.
Yeah, he was.
But he would bring out roses and give it to the girls. And
he was like I said, like the Yellow Rose of Texas, and so he quickly became the main one. He was like the John Lennon of the Von Erichs.
That's a good way to say it.
And then I don't know if you want to add a little bit more before we go into his passing, or.
I just felt like he was the beacon for the family. Like he was the light, like the lighthouse. Because the rest of the brothers the other two were the tag team. One had a disease where he had brittle bone and he really wasn't a wrestler, and the other one just wasn't shaped as a wrestler. Sometimes you don't get as bulky. So there was three of them that were really huge, but David was like the beacon. He was the lighthouse. He was a shining star, and everybody was like, he made the Von Erichs the Von Erichs. It was sad because he's in Japan and they call home and they tell them that they went in his hotel room and that he had passed. And so then bringing in another sad character, they call out there and it's Bruiser Brody they get a hold of, and Bruiser Brody tells them what he knows, and everybody knows by this time point, if you're watching the show or you're just a wrestling genius historian, that Bruiser Brody is a big brute. He is hardcore to the T, but even he was choking up on the phone That made me sad knowing the outcome of what happened to Bruiser Brody.
Yeah, because Bruiser Brody's actually the one that found the body.
Yeah, and it's like, that guy.
So the U.S. Embassy reports the death as acute enteritis, but there are wrestlers in the business that believe that he passed away of an overdose. There's rumors and all that stuff that Bruiser Brody actually disposed of the drugs before the police came in, but Kevin says that his brother was looking pale before he left,
and he was throwing up blood, and he just thought it was something he ate. And the whole thing with the Von Erichs don't miss a show.
Yeah, the wrestling is so in their bloods, and their father pretty much drilled it. And if you're booked to a show, you don't miss it. Yeah,
and so he goes and doctors told him that it was basically a blockage or something, ruptured. He basically bled inside, and then his organs started shutting down, and he died. His heart gave out, heart failure, which is common if it's your stomach is something. If you guys know, like once bile and everything gets in your system, it's just a matter of time before your blood's poisoned, and it poisons the rest of your organs, and it shuts down. So that is a very plausible, and I believe the brother. I won't go against what he says or he believes, despite what other wrestlers say. Just because just watching Kev Sadie things, it was really hard.
Yeah, it's still. He says even now, since he got that call in late hours, whenever the phone rings at late at night, he still has post-traumatic stress.
Yeah.
So David's dream was to win the NWA title.
He didn't get a chance.
Yeah, he never got a chance to. But they held a tribute for him.
Yeah.
The NWA champion at this time was Ric Flair.
Yeah.
Kerry, who would later become the Texas Tornado or the modern day Warrior.
Yeah.
Would hold a dream of the Von Erichs by beating Ric Flair in a stadium packed.
Yeah, it was insane.
Yeah.
It was like super insane. Like when he won, it was like I never saw old footage of wrestling like that where it like it looked like WrestleMania. Like they blew up. Like everybody was like, people were crying, and then he had a sign with the rose, and it was just it was really heartfelt. And for a minute there, the way they were like delivering the story, I'm like, did Ric Flair not lose? Like I was like,
they did a really good job with how they set it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, Kerry later on gets into a motorcycle accident, and it's not revealed until much later that his leg actually had an infection and it got amputated. So he wrestled for many years with without a leg, pretty much. But nobody knew. He kept it a secret, and his whole family was swore to keep it a secret. And then he gets into
the WWF, the World Wrestling Federation, and at this point he is going against some of the top stars there. Yeah. He's no longer at the top of his game. It starts to weigh on him a little bit.
Yeah, because they take away. McMahon decides not to use the Von Erich name, but we'll get more into it as chronologically we're skipping what happens after that. So Fritz felt that Kerry and Kevin were not enough. So they ended up getting a fake Von Erich, and people started getting mad at the fact that it was Lance Von Erich, right? I believe.
Lance.
So then when people realized that wasn't really a Von Erich, they started kind of turning on them. So they ended up bringing out their real brother, Mike Von Erich, and Mike had he's the one that had the asthma, right? And the brittle bone.
No, he was the smaller one. He ended up suffering from a shoulder injury. And he was a smaller guy, just not as brute. He got a shoulder injury that got infected. And man, they almost lost him. He almost died there. He recovered, but Kevin was saying that he looked like he had, and when you see the interviews, and man, the interviews are hard to watch because it looks like he has some sort of brain damage or delay.
He was in a coma. The whole family thought he was going to die. I think he was having
toxic shock syndrome. Yeah. And
all of a sudden, like a miracle, he wakes up from it, but
he's so gaunt.
Yeah, and decides to come right back into wrestling. Doesn't give himself enough time to actually rest and try to get back.
And so he has to retire himself. it doesn't go well. And he's the first of the brothers to commit suicide.
Yeah, he overdoses with tranquilizers, decides to go out into the forest near their farm.
Yeah.
And I think Kevin discovers his body, right?
Yeah, I think I want to say he.
Yeah, it makes you feel so bad for Kevin because he's carrying this whole thing.
Yeah, he's carrying a lot of weight. Yeah, so that happens, and at the same time, like you're saying, like Terry's not doing too well in WWF.
Yeah.
And things are going not well for him. We have
Chris though.
Yeah, and we haven't even got onto Chris's.
Because this Carrie.
I think Chris dies. Yeah, the loss of his brother Mike.
Yeah. So Chris is the smallest. Eric. He's only 5'4". He has asthma. He has brittle bones.
And so they decide to have him make a push. And man, the kid, like in the videos, man, he tried so hard to bulk up. He looked good, you know. But for the Von Erich standard, I don't think he ever felt like he was good enough.
Yeah.
And he just wasn't.
There was so much pressure on him.
Yeah, and
he breaks his arm. He just can't really seem to live up to the expectation of the world, of what the world has on the Von Erichs.
Yeah.
So he grabs a gun. Yeah, he goes to a pier. Kevin sees him go on his 4-wheeler, so Kevin follows him and goes and talks to him and tells him, like, you're not going to kill yourself, are you? And Chris says, no, I'm not. But did you read my letter? And at this time, Kevin doesn't know what he's talking about. But he promises, Kevin tells Chris to promise him not to do anything dumb.
Yeah.
Kevin goes back to go wake up Fritz. When he gets to his dad's house, he sees Fritz is standing up, and Kevin's like, "Hey, did Chris write any suicide notes or anything?"
And dad tells him to go out there and get him.
Fritz is like, "Hurry back, go get him." And by the time Kevin goes back, Chris is on the ground. He's choking. Kevin thinks that he's overdosing on something, so he's like, "What are you doing?" And when he puts his hand to pick him up to make him throw up, he feels the blood and the hole in the back of his head where he shot himself. It's very gruesome, and Kevin telling the story is so sad. You see him,
he needs to take a break, and he lives in Hawaii, I think it was, and he's so disconnected from like this.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
And there's a little silver lining that comes at the end. The finding peace with all this, but so he passes, and then we get back to Carrie.
Now we get to Carrie with the WWE.
And there's been stuff where other documentaries where they say, like, Bret Hart says that he had told him that Carrie said he wanted to be with his brothers. So there's like a lot of dark things that people are not putting together. And at this point, Fritz at this point would have put everybody like on suicide watch. Like, you kind of need to keep the ones you have left closer.
And I think Kevin admits that Carrie told him once that he's like, you know, what Chris did, that took a lot of guts. And Kevin tells him, like, no, what takes guts is to live. Don't talk like that.
Oh, no, he told it to his dad.
Okay, yeah.
His dad says that, which is like, when I heard him say that his dad said that, I was like, I'm sorry, that Warren's being punched in the face.
Yeah.
Like, so your surviving son is going to get punished by your thoughts. Like, he was holding a gun to Kevin's face.
Yeah, we get to that after like, Carrie.
Yeah, Carrie commits suicide. He goes.
He's another one that
goes out into like the forest, but his dad finds him.
Yeah.
And his dad's like, you know, I've never seen Carrie as peaceful as he looked in that.
Yeah. Because he sees the glove on his Jeep.
Yeah.
So, and it's the glove for the hand where the shooting hand. And Fritz at this time is kind of like he's lost the hope. His wife has left them too, so you could tell that he was
they're having a bunch of marital problems,
going through some depression issues. And then Fritz is also having brain cancer at this time, so his thoughts are kind of like muddied now. He's living in depression. He's living like. He had built such a big legacy. All his sons had been so huge that like now, it's like he's left to pick up the pieces. I think he also commits suicide. No,
he has cancer. And Kevin was happy that he finally went because he felt like he had peace.
Yeah, and then you could tell the story about the gun.
Yeah, so Kevin had a moment where he thought he was gonna do it too. He went into a gun shop, got a gun. And as he's leaving, one of the owners, because he's trying to steal it, puts in his pant legs, you know, and the guy was like, Kevin, we love you.
Yeah, the owner saw him taking the gun and didn't stop him.
And then he went to his car, sat there for a minute, got back out and put the gun back. And then the guys come around and give him a hug. And he's like, I love you guys too. And it was like, you know how people say like you had a voice or something, like you're there at the right place at the right time. And I'm very grateful for those gentlemen. Yeah. Because you would have lost we would have had no third generation here if that would have been the end of him. So the man's been a lot.
The other thing that you were talking that I interrupted you.
Oh, the father.
The father, when the father held the gun to Kevin.
It got me mad. Just because, like, you know, like, I'm not suicide. It does take a lot of guts to go through something like that, and it's not even guts. It's you're hurting so bad that you don't see any silver lining. And we both know people who have been through something like that in our family and our friends. And it's hurtful to know that there's no way to reach those individuals, and for his father to tell him that they had a lot of guts to do something like that. And, you know, I loved his rebuttal, which is, no, it takes a lot of guts to live. And I've never heard something like that. And it was so profound. And I love that message because it's hard. Living is hard. Going through something like this, something like that, suicide is also very hard. But you know, living with the pain that Kevin has is even harder. Yeah. He never got to see his brothers have, you know, families. He's never going to have a Christmas and never have another holiday. His kids are never going to get to know their other uncles. You know, it's just one of those things where it's like, it's easier to say the pain is gone for them, but it's easier. Yeah. It's easier just to understand that, but it's harder for the ones who live on and have to endure and carry that pain and that burden. Yeah. And Kevin, he's wasted from it. But man, it's so good to see the ending with his sons and his grandkids, and you know, like the legacy is not stopping. He was able to retire in the ring with his boys. Yeah, just recently. Yeah, so like that was really, really cool to see. It was really cool to see that he doesn't hate the sport. No. That and it's funny because
he doesn't blame wrestling.
And his sons look like his brothers, which is so crazy. They look so much like them.
Ross and Marshall Von Erich carry on the Von Erich name. Yeah. And it's great to see them actually carrying on that name, and I hope that we get to see more of them. Yeah, and then Lacey Von Erich too.
Yeah, she was the Impact champion. Yeah. I mean TNA. Well, yeah, Total Impact.
She's the daughter of Carrie, who passed away. Yeah. Yeah, and it's just great to see that there's more Von Erich wrestling going on. Yeah. And I'm hoping that you know, a certain organization out there picks them up.
Yeah, I mean the one that's here somewhere if you guys can see it, but
yeah, the one organization that actually puts in the time and effort to tag team division. I mean, they
need to be around. I'm not saying those boys are stupid. The boys are far from stupid. They would never do anything to hurt their father.
And in their interview, they were really
really grounded. Yeah, they were, oh God, it's in their blood. It's like they look flawless. You know, like they just need some good tag teams. Some good people, some other brothers that can take care of them. I'm just gonna put it on that. I'm gonna leave it like that. But you know, it was bittersweet to see the ending, and I would love to cheer on the Von Erichs if they ever come to an organization, because I feel like their name and their legacy could use some redemption and some remembering of the ones that they lost.
Well, they're in MLW right now, so if you guys want to see them and cheer for them. Whenever we get out of this quarantine stuff and Major League Wrestling comes nearby, go and check it out.
Yeah, definitely another organization does not get enough attention. Yeah. Just like AAA. Yeah. Yeah, so like, it would be really, really cool to see them on a bigger platform.
And then Lacey, she's retired.
Yeah, and they're still kind of babies though. They're not too old. Yep. They're like 30s, late 20s. Yeah, she's retired, Lacey. So that's really cool. You know, that'd be cool to see her come back in some capacity too. That'd be awesome if she ever decided to. But yeah, it was definitely a tough one to see, and definitely heartfelt.
But with, like I said, happy ending.
Happy ending. Remember, suicide prevention hotline. There's always help, even during these times right now when we are feeling alone and
just reach out.
Lonely. Just reach out. Just tweet. Just put a post. You're not alone. There's somebody going out there through the same thing you're going through, and not the same capacity, but they can have compassion and they understand you. So if there's anything to the end of this thing, is that please don't think you're alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely nice to go back and see something about a family that I really didn't know too much about. It was great to see some old footage of Flair and everybody. That was cool.
Fabulous hair of Flair.
Fabulous hair of Flair. This goes back to what I said. There's some fabulous hair going on back in the old days. So, but yeah, we'll be back with the rest of season 1 and the ending of season 2. Yep. So we'll see you guys next time.